I always look for people who really believe that things could be better. There's got to be something I don't know. We have to be mindful that just because something could be automated or just because something is really cool doesn't mean it's worth the investment.
Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Scott Wood. I'm with Eric Soden of Capitalize Analytics, managing partner, Capitalize Analytics. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Glad you're here. What is Capitalize Analytics?
Capitalize Analytics is a company that focuses on helping people integrate technology into their processes to optimize them, basically. So I tell a lot of people, our goal, if you have a process in accounting, tax, finance, HR, marketing that you think is on a scale of 1 to 10, in an automation world, a 3, and you want to get to an 8, our goal is to come in and figure out why it's a 3 today and how to get you to an 8. So it's all about the discovery process, the brainstorming around how could we optimize something, and then figuring out what technology to put in, and then helping you actually put it in, and then training your team and making sure that you can support it long term.
I heard you say earlier before we went on live that if you can do the process manually, you should be able to automate it.
Yeah. I always tell you can change your process to capture things like data that you didn't capture before, but you can't go back and capture data you weren't capturing before. Right. So if you don't have viewership metrics for this podcast and you said, I want to analyze viewership, and is it getting better, is it getting worse? Well, there's no way to go back because what happened and there's no way to restore it. But if right now, if you really wanted to focus on this podcast and how it's doing in different markets, and if you're publishing this on YouTube and Spotify and on Google, you would have to cobble all of that together. And you could do that by hand, and something like that might only take you an hour or something to go to each of those platforms, download your metrics for the time frame you're looking at, and then get them all into probably Excel, and then figure out a way to cobble it all together. The problem is if you want to do that at scale and you want to do hundreds of thousands of things like that, and you want to do it every day or every hour or every minute,
right?
It can't take a couple of hours every time. And so what we would do is come in and break that process down and figure out, how do you get it today? Is there a better way to get it? So you might be getting it through a download. Maybe we can get it through an API. You might be getting it through an API, but then you're pulling it into Excel. Well, we're going to bypass the Excel step and we're going to put it together using different tools. So our goal, again, is to figure out what is it that you need and how can we get it to you as fast as humanly possible. And then it's just a lot of tips and techniques. So computer vision and a lot of the AI stuff now, you can feed it a PDF and you can say, count the number of dogs on this in this document, and it'll count them. Well, if you needed to count dogs on these documents, you're getting thousands of documents, you got to count the dogs, you're gonna have to hire a huge team of people or outsource it or something to be able to do it. Well, computer vision will just do it for you. Right. And so something that's ridiculous idea, but a lot of times it is, I need the billing and the shipping, I need all the line items, I need the tax, I need the invoice total, and I need to take that and somebody's going to key it into a system. And that takes a long time. If you're getting 1,000 invoices a month,
right,
and so you're hand keying all of them, 1, potential for error, 2, takes a long time. And so now you figure out which tips and tools and techniques are you going to use. And the thing that is crazy is just like if you're building homes, the toolbox is very big. So people have heard of things like Power BI and Tableau. You've heard of Snowflake and Databricks and Azure and AWS and all these different technologies. But the problem is no one of them is the silver bullet. It's putting them all together and orchestrating all of them for the specific task, which, is counting dogs in PDFs apparently.
This is going to be a great conversation. So before we get too far down the rabbit hole, let's go back. Where are you from?
So I grew up in Wisconsin, moved to Minneapolis, lived there for a bit, working for a company called Cargill, and then 19 years ago, moved to Dallas for a company called Cognos, focused on data warehousing and dashboards, reports, that sort of stuff. And then we were bought by IBM, and then I moved out of there, started running a P&L for another company out of Denver, and then started this company 19 years ago.
Okay. So
I'm sorry, I started this company 12 and a half years ago, moved here 19 years ago.
Gotcha. So Wisconsin, graduated from high school in Wisconsin.
Yeah, little
big town,
Fort Atkinson. Yeah, okay, Fort Atkinson. Right. Yeah, about 10,000 people.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was good.
And where'd you go to college?
went to college in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So a offshoot of the University of Wisconsin platform. And actually, that's where I was born as well. So I ended up kind of going home, if you will.
Yeah, and then went right to the Cargill job out of college.
Yep. So I had 3 internships. Cargill was one of them, and it was actually very dangerous. So I went into my senior year of college knowing I had a job.
Okay.
Which
that is dangerous.
Yeah. I knew how much money I was going to make. I knew what I was doing. I still did very well my senior year, but it definitely made it harder to focus.
So tell me one thing about your kind of early childhood through maybe high school that, just something that was formative or, pointed you in the direction that you ended up from a career perspective or.
Yeah, sure. So, I grew up, my mom worked in a factory until she retired. My dad was an HVAC tradesman. And so, and they got divorced when I was very young. And so it was just me and my mom. I was the only child. And my mom worked 12-hour days, many times 5-6 days a week. And so it taught me, one, that money is not easy to get because she was working very, very hard to get it. And it also taught me a lot of independence and a lot of just grit. So I think knowing that whatever I was going to get, I was going to figure out how to get it on my own. And having a lot of independence growing up. Luckily for me, I don't know that it works for everybody, but luckily for me, I stayed on the right path, got good grades, went to college, and was able to get to where I am today.
Did you, I'm curious, like when your mom was working and, you guys were kind of, growing up together, did you have any jobs in high school or any, what I'd call entrepreneurial ventures, paper routes or lawn mowing gigs or?
All of it.
Yeah. Tell me about some of that.
Yeah. So, I started saving my allowance as soon as I got one, and just immediately, I kind of figured out that money was the way that I would get the things that I wanted and be able to do things, be able to experience things the way that I wanted to, and would give me the ability to have what I wanted and not say no to things I wanted to go do. And so, I did lawn mowing. I actually started a little computer repair business, kind of like was it Geek Squad? So I started one of those for our local town, went around and, fixed people's computers, added video cards, stuff like that. At 15 and a half, so at 16 is when you can get most jobs, but at 15 and a half, like some places will hire you. So I got a job at a Wisconsin fish fry at a bowling alley.
Okay.
And it was, I was the busboy and the dishwasher. It was nasty. I had to scoop tartar sauce and ketchup off the plates into it was just really not good. So at 16, I got out of that. So I did that for a good 6 months, and then went and started working retail. And then I actually worked at Radio Shack. If you remember Radio Shack, I think they're gone now, but that was my first commissioned thing. So that was, the more I hustled, the more I made, and spiffs and all these sorts of things. So there's not been a lot of time. I mean, I was selling stuff out of my lunch in middle school, and it was, money has always been a good driver for me because, again, like I said, it has opened up the ability to do the things I want to do. And it's a bit of a freedom card.
Right. And I guess maybe you didn't feel like you had a lot of freedom because your mom, was working the hours that she was.
She didn't have a lot of freedom, that's for sure.
Right. She was working hard, and it probably took everything she had just to provide for you guys.
Yeah.
And so anything extra.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of extra.
You were on your own.
Yeah, there was no. She got a passport on her for her 60th birthday, basically, so I could take her somewhere out of the country.
Yeah.
But before that, there was no. We weren't going to Europe.
Yeah.
That would have been insane, right? Plane tickets. So no, it was very much you paycheck to paycheck, work your butt off in order to be able to meet your needs, not to be able to do fun, frivolous things extra. Yeah. So, I mean, we did great, and I actually tell people about her specifically. She gave me enough financial support to stay socially successful, because if you're the kid at school that doesn't have anything, and you have all the old hand-me-down clothes and things that don't fit and whatever, it gets pretty hard to stay popular.
Right.
So that I never had to worry about. She always made sure that I had the stuff that I needed to be able to fit in. So that was as far as we went.
Yeah. So one of the themes I picked up on already is the tech theme. So like at what age do you first remember sort of having this interest in technology?
Yeah, it came really early. So I think it started with things like the Commodore 64, which was, I was very little when that was a thing.
Yeah.
But
Did you guys have one?
We didn't. We didn't. No. But a friend of mine had one. And it started, I think, mostly with video games. Commodore 64 was a bit like a early Atari. And then I had an Atari, and so that was cool. And then one of my friends had, I can't remember, a TS-80 or something, some Tandy thing. And we used to stay up all night typing code out of a book, basically, in order to make a game. And you would spend all night typing. And then you'd have syntax errors and have to go troubleshoot them. And then in the end, you'd have something ridiculous, like the worst version of Pong you've ever seen.
And how old were you?
Oh, this is 7 or something, like quite young.
Yeah,
I got my first computer in 5th grade. So that would have been around 10, I guess.
Okay.
But before that, I was with my other friends, and that was another thing. My mom couldn't have afforded that computer that I got. Truthfully, I can't imagine looking back, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But for whatever, I don't know if it was just because I wanted a lot and she loved me a lot, or because she had an inkling that it might take me far. But I was able to print my homework and bring it in way before other kids were.
Yeah.
So, and then it was, well, you got to upgrade your computer. And so you start taking the thing apart, and you got to add this or add that, or like I had a 1-speed CD-ROM drive when it first came in, and it was like, okay, well, that's slow now. I need to go get a 2X or a 5X, and then it was CD burners, and I never did anything untoward or that the music industry would be unhappy about. Right. But you could, if you wanted to, with a CD burner.
You knew how to do it.
You could.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah. I would never.
Yeah.
But no. But it was so it was cool. Yeah. And so it was a lot of tinkering with the computers, and honestly, I didn't even think about it as a career. Really, it was more of just a hobby, passion thing, and a lot of it revolved around like video games and stuff like that, and you had to upgrade the sound card in order to get sound for the new video game. You had to upgrade the video card to get better video and better graphics and stuff. And then it just became part of my life, and it was easy.
Yeah.
That's the other part, is that I think that a lot of people look at technology and it feels like magic. And if you really know how it works, none of it's really magic.
Yeah.
And none of it's even that hard. But I think it's daunting because you don't know how it works, and you don't know. You have this and that was probably when I really first started getting into computers. Some of my best lessons were, you can't really break it.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just try it. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
You can always rebuild it if you had to.
Right.
And so, if you don't know what the button does, click it. If it breaks everything, right, just have a backup or start all over. And so for me, I think that just the ability to really aggressively explore without feeling like concern that I wasn't good enough, I wasn't smart enough, I might break it, all that sort of stuff, just never really existed. And so the things came, I don't know, fairly easy, I guess. And now you flash forward, and because that's been my whole life from what I can remember, I think of the kids now, they've never used anything without a touch screen or something, you know?
Right.
Or the kids that are born today will never know a time before generative AI.
Right.
Like that won't exist.
Right.
They'll you think now kids would never go to an encyclopedia to look something up. Well, then it was because they'd go to Wikipedia or something.
Right.
Well, no one's ever going to Wikipedia again. Right. I hope Wikipedia doesn't go out of business or whatever. But and it's a great resource.
Right,
but yeah. Just ask Gemini, ask ChatGPT, ask whatever, and boom, the answer's right there. And you better fact check it. I was just told, this is a funny story. Not that you asked, but I just asked, hey, what types of plants can I plant near the lakeshore in Lake Michigan that will do well and help the dune? So we bought a house up there. And it gave me this amazing response. And one of the things it said is to make sure that you have plants that can handle salt spray. There's no salt in Lake Michigan. So it's not always right. So that's the other thing that I think we're all going to have to figure out with this is how do you use it? What can you do? What do you trust?
Did you ask it why it said?
I didn't.
You didn't ask the follow-up question.
I was think I was in a car when I was doing this.
Yeah, you were in a hurry. Yeah. Well, this is so far it's a fascinating conversation because I am not. I mean, I'm tech savvy enough, but I would never open up a Commodore 64 as a kid and add a video card or add a sound card. I mean, like to me,
Sure.
if I opened it, I was going to break it.
Sure.
And that was a scary thing. And I didn't really understand how it worked either. But
Yeah.
I just think it's really interesting that this has always been part of your arc. All right, so let's go to graduation, starting at Cargill. You knew you had a job going into your senior year. Senior year, good year, made good grades, or
made good grades. It was a tough year. So I graduated in 2003, and that was a tough year for kids graduating. So
you had a job. So
I was very happy with that. Yeah.
And then was this a tech job?
It was, yeah. So I was going into North American Food IT, was the name of the business unit that I was going to be in, and supporting all IT things. And I focused all around databases and reporting and getting people data they needed.
So previously you said, I wasn't sure this was going to be a career pursuit. So at what point along through college did you decide
Very early.
technology was going to be a career pursuit?
Very early in college. So when I got to college, I wasn't sure, because a lot of the stuff that I was doing with computers was really more focused on games and music and stuff like that. So
Fun stuff.
It didn't feel like this would ever be a job. Like, how's that going to be a job? Now I guess I could have gone into developing games or something like that, but that didn't seem reasonable either. So as I was going through, it was like I started taking some intro classes and just part of the general curriculum, and started talking to some more people about the types of jobs that they had in IT. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is probably the most natural path. And at that time too, I don't want to say IT was new, but it was definitely not as prevalent. Like, people didn't talk about it all the time in a work perspective like they do today. And so as I figured that out, and then as they talked about how that job class was going to grow so much, and like what the total amount of economic value and opportunity would be there, it ended up being something where I was like, oh, well, okay, I'll do that.
I got this.
Yeah. So I went into management information system was the major that I had. And then, graduated and went to Cargill.
And so you were there for how long?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
Which, when you're that age, it felt like a really long time.
Yeah.
I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't really there. I felt like I was there a long time.
Yeah.
And honestly, the internship there, shout out to Cargill. It was fantastic experience, and I learned a lot. Had a great mentor, Mike Peterson, who's still at Cargill, by the way. And
shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. Yeah. He was a fantastic mentor. Really helped me, and I fell into the data side of things through the internship, and then through the 2 years there. Really focused on getting data out of databases the way people wanted it, and everybody had questions, but very few people, especially then, had the ability to really go into a database and go get the data. And certainly cobbling it together with multiple systems was more difficult than it even is today. And so fell into that. Started learning SQL, started learning some BI tools and reporting tools, and
and you left there, and then what's next? Well, somewhere along the way, you got married, met your wife. So tell us about that really quickly.
Sure. So I met my wife technically in high school, but we were not friends in high school.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah. I was running with the crew who was on the edge of doing the right thing all the time. Mostly it was just alcohol related. Yeah. And she was more straight and narrow, so we didn't really see eye to eye in high school. And then we sort of re-met, if you will, about 10 years after we met the first time. And life was a lot different for both of us. And so actually right after I left Cargill, I started a job at a consulting firm, and then I ended up getting that job at Cognos, and that's when I ended up getting back with Angie.
Okay, where were you living at the time?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Okay,
yeah.
Great. All right. So now you've left Cargill. You've gotten the job at what's the name of the company?
So there was a company called Woodburn Group that I was at for just under a year, and that was consulting. So I really wanted to get into sales and sales engineering. Sales engineering are the quote unquote, I always joke about this, I don't know if it's quote unquote or not, but the smart kids who go around with the salespeople, and the salespeople they don't really know the technology really
Right.
well, but they're good schmoozers.
Right.
And so they bring the smart kid with
They
them.
make a lot of promises.
Yep. And they're like, right, Eric? And I'm like, well, technically,
Yeah.
you know, and then we have to whiteboard it and make sure that we're doing
Right.
it, we're on the straight and narrow. So I really want to do that because I worked with some sales engineers while I was at Cargill. It was very hard to get a job there if you'd never done it. And so I ended up going into consulting and doing some sales engineering there, and then got a shot at being a sales engineer at Cognos.
Okay.
So yeah.
And that was still in Minneapolis.
It was in Minneapolis in the beginning, and then they asked me very quickly to move to Dallas, and that's how I ended up.
Okay, that's how you got here. So you moved here with Cognos.
That's right.
Right. And then IBM, and you were with them for how many years?
5.5 years total, about half of the time before the acquisition by IBM and about half the time after.
Okay.
And I switched, did 4.5 years as a sales engineer, and then switched to an account executive or outside salesperson for my final year at Cognos.
And then, sorry to back up, what's your wife's name?
Angie.
Angie. Okay. So when you guys pick up and move to Dallas, how was that conversation?
That's a whole different story. So we start dating in December, and I moved in August so
the next year.
Yeah. So very close timeline.
Yeah.
And it was, everything was fantastic. We were getting along really, really well. And actually, she was living in Madison. I was living in Minneapolis. So we were already slightly long distance. And I was like, I've got to move to Dallas. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was like, well,
do you like another world?
Do you want to go? Yeah. Yeah. Coming from Wisconsin. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Texas,
Texas, everything's bigger there.
Yeah.
Don't mess with it. Yeah. No, it has its own culture that us Wisconsinites weren't really prepared for. You guys have your own not national anthem. What is it called in elementary school?
Pledge.
The pledge, pledge. Don't you have a pledge of Texas?
Do we?
I think so.
Maybe we do.
I think so.
It's been a long time since I've been in elementary school.
Fair enough. I don't even know. Maybe they don't do it anymore. I don't know.
I know we were our own country once.
Yeah. Well, and I believe only state that can fly the flag at the same level as the U.S. flag.
Okay.
Every other state has to have it lower. This is the only one.
Okay.
It's the same height. Anyway, so I was like, oh yeah, I got to move to Dallas, and she's like, oh okay. And I was like, do you want to go with? And she's like, well, do you want me to go with? And then that became a whole thing. She was like, well, I'm not going to go if you don't want me to go. And I'm like, well, I don't want to force you to go because that'd be terrible if we got down there. We just started dating not too long ago. Anyway, flash forward, she decides to take the leap, comes down here.
So she follows you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we moved down together.
Okay.
She moved because I had to move, I would say. I don't know if she followed me. She probably wouldn't appreciate that particular but no. And
we can edit that out.
Yeah, no, that's fine. and then a couple years later, we ended up getting engaged, and then we got married.
Nice.
And now we actually just celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
On April 25th.
You guys have children?
We do not.
Okay.
No, and that's always been the plan. So, and I think that's a big decision probably for everybody. Either direction you're going to go, or how many to have, or whatever.
Yeah.
And now everybody I know and most of the people I talk to on a regular basis or meet have kids. And every once in a while they're telling a story. I'm like, man, my life is a lot simpler.
For sure.
A lot simpler.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I was talking to somebody and they were talking about having like 4 different events all across the DFW Metroplex. And some of these
Saturday.
Things, in one day.
Yeah.
And some of them, mom's going one direction with a couple of the kids, dad's going the other direction with the others. And we're talking like 5 hours in the car in one day.
Yeah.
Plus the time at the
And you're like, all I got to do is just get up, have breakfast, have a cup of coffee, and maybe get a workout or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my Sunday.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So now you're in Dallas with now IBM, who purchased
Cognos,
your former company, and then you get to a decision point about starting your own venture, right? Is that what's next?
Yeah, I did a stint. I did leave IBM and do a stint running a P&L for a couple of years, but
What's a P&L?
What is a P&L?
Yeah,
so a
profit loss statement.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I ran a division.
Okay.
That had its own P&L. So my revenue
For IBM.
No,
for
a consulting firm.
Okay.
So it was a consulting firm called Infolink Consulting. They were bought by a company called EKS&H and then bought by a company called Plant Moran.
Okay.
So Plant Moran's still around.
So they brought you in to run
They brought me in to run a particular section of the business. That's right. Yeah. So I did that for 2 years. And I've always been trying to figure out how do you start your own company, and I'm very opinionated. I want things to be the way I want them to. I'm not great with authority figures. Part of being an only child, maybe, I don't know.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, but so the decision point, I guess, was I was talking to a couple of folks, including my business partner Brian, about how could we take and launch, and what we were doing was reporting for specifically oil and gas ERP systems, and how can we bring better reporting and data to oil and gas. Brian's background's oil and gas, my background obviously data, and so that was really the opportunity knocking. Was could we do this? And we decided, yeah, we could. And Brian had a lot of clients and a lot of background, again, in the oil and gas ERP market on the accounting side. I had a lot of knowledge and a lot of reach outside of oil and gas in the data space. And so we put those two things together, and that's how Capitalized Analytics got started.
And what year was that?
2012.
2012. Okay. So now we're 13 years in-ish.
Yep.
And did you focus solely on oil and gas in the beginning?
That was the start. So, So Brian had actually had a company called Capitalized Consulting, and that was focused on oil and gas ERP implementations. And so I came in, we started Capitalized Analytics. That was going to be focused on just analytics, process automation, data, and now, AI, ML. And so that was the seed was oil and gas. And so we started probably, I don't know, first year for sure. And then once we got that stabilized and we had clients, and then it was like, okay, now I have time to go out to my network of Cognos people, IBM people, other clients that I'd worked with, et cetera, and build from there.
Great. So let's just fast forward to today. How many employees?
We're right at 130 employees.
Okay.
All U.S. and we have all U.S. and Toronto based.
Okay.
So we got about, I think, 7 people in Toronto right now, and the rest are in the U.S.
Okay. And are these all full-time employees or?
Yep. So
independent contractors or both, or?
Almost no contractors. We'll bring a contractor in here or there depending upon very specific needs, or like we built some products internally that we then take to market. So if we can really control the scope and control the work product, then we might use contractors. If it's really focused on the way that I look at us as like the white glove, red carpet, like in the hotel world, like the Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton. Like it's not inexpensive to work with us, but we're gonna bring the absolute A team. Yeah. And you're gonna be okay paying the invoices. Yeah. Because it's gonna be some of the best projects you've ever worked on. But so in order to do that, we really have to be able to control the quality of the people, and everything about the experience has to be controlled by us. So in that case, we would use all of our own people. If it's something that we're doing more off as a project where we can absorb some impact of maybe things not going quite as well, then we may, or skill sets we don't have, then we may use contractors.
And so who's the target client today? Size of client? Or,
it's a good question. I'm going to answer it the way I want to answer it, and then I'll try to answer it the way you asked it. I always look for people who really believe that things could be better. Things that I know it's 2025. We're supposed to have flying cars. How the hell is my team using Excel all the time? Right. Why is this so slow? Why does month-end close take this long? Why does it take so long to onboard an employee? Why does it take so long to issue a laptop? Why does it take so long to, right? You pick anything. Why does it take so long? Right. There's got to be something I don't know. Right. And the situation has to be big enough to make it worth engaging. But even if it's like one of the things that I do pride ourselves on a little bit, our CPA firm was struggling trying to build a Power BI thing. It took us a week to build it, and we built it for them. Wow. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be a huge project, but it has to be somebody wants something. They know it's got to be possible. Right. And sometimes you want to be your team to be trained. Maybe it's like, hey, I want my team to be better at this. And sometimes it's just, I just need it done, and I just need it done right. And I just need it done fast. And I don't want any BS, right? I don't want a lot of back and forth. I just want to knock this out. And sometimes those are huge digital transformation projects that take forever, because a lot of times these automations are saving 2 hours a month, 10 hours a month, 40 hours a month, or some derivation of that, right? Could be a week, a year, or a quarter. And there's not usually, with what we do anyway, there's not usually one project where you're like, oh, that would be worth $1 million.
Right.
But if I can take and save you 10 hours a month, and I can do it 1,000 times, and find 1,000 little things that we take off your plate and make all of your people 20% more efficient because they are better. They are more knowledgeable about how to do this type of thing. They no longer create crappy processes in Excel or hand key things into 14 different systems because they know there's a better way. Then we upskill, right? So kind of the rising tide thing. We bring everybody up with their knowledge, and they now know what's possible. So things that they would have never asked for before, now all of a sudden they're asking for, and things are getting done quickly. You're seeing ROI. That's when things are really exciting for me. So if it's a $100 million company that really wants to be more efficient, I'm all about it. If it's a $1 billion company, usually when they're really big companies, if we go into like Fortune 500, they have really smart people, and a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's usually a narrower niche where we are going to snap in. It's they just had somebody leave and they need help, or they want to evaluate 5 different technologies and they don't have time to do it right now, and they want us to do it and basically summarize and bring back the answers. Or they just bought a new technology that they haven't used before, and they want us to train their team on how to use this stuff and use it effectively, maybe help them on the first couple projects so that they can get their feet underneath of them, and maybe be a backstop for support if they need third level, if they need an expert to come in. So with the smaller companies, it's fun because it's usually, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's transformational for you.
Yeah. And if you're open to that, it's really fun because we can do some really creative and cool and fun stuff. The other thing that I think we do a good job of is, where do you start? I could probably...
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about True North and all the questions that we have, inside our own organization, and that's the very question I'm asking is, okay, like, well, where do I start? That's
it. And I think it's the most daunting part of all of it. It like anything you've never done before, like, I want to build my own house. If you've never done it before, it's like, how do you get land?
Right.
And then, like, once you have the land, what's the next step? And hopefully you find an amazing home builder or something who can walk you through that process. And it takes a long time to figure that out. And to me, that's us. Like, we're the guy that would come in and say, okay, we're going to look for 100 potential ways to make this place better. Then we're going to try to figure out what's the value of that if we made it better, and what is the cost to do it. And if I tell you that something that's going to save you $1,000 a year costs you $200,000 to automate, you're not going to want to do that.
Right.
And I don't want you to do that.
Right.
I want to find the projects that you're going to spend $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and you're going to save $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, because those are no brainers.
Right.
Well, sign me up for those all day.
Right.
And that's what we look for. But it's hard. It's hard to, especially when you're talking to like accounting, tax, finance, HR, marketing. Those people don't have like hardcore technical backgrounds. So they're not asking for things because they don't even know if it's possible. And so you don't ask for stuff like, oh, I'd really like flying cars. Well, it's ridiculous, Eric. Like, where are you going to buy one? They don't exist yet. That doesn't mean they won't, but they don't currently. And so if you don't know that something exists, you're probably not going to ask for it. And so our job is to go in and we will say, look, our job's to figure out all the ways you could use technology, all the ways that you guys could automate, and everything's on the table. If you think something's annoying, if you think something sucks, if you think something's slow, if you wish part of your job would go away, show it to us.
Right.
I don't know for sure I can automate it, but I know that if I don't think you can do it, or Capitalize doesn't think you can do it, it almost certainly can't be done.
Right.
And the truth is, if you can do it with a keyboard and mouse, then you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
we
in
can
a manual way.
in a manual way.
Right.
Yeah. If you've got it figured out in Excel, but it takes you 5 hours, I can get it down to 1 second.
Yeah.
Almost no question.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So my guess is when clients engage you guys that it's just the beginning. Like you'll identify 1 or 2 projects or whatever, but then you'll get to the end of those projects and then they're already on to okay, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? So I'm guessing that your clients are sort of perma clients at that point. Like once they've committed to a capital spend every year and, they've got a list of projects, I mean, it's endless in terms of the work that you could do to continue to help automate.
Especially if you have a leader who thinks like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we're brought in and like I said, Fortune 500, usually we're brought in for something specific, knock it out, teach some people, and then ideally, just like a good attorney, just like a good doctor, just like a good lawyer, well, attorney and lawyer, but just like a good car mechanic, you don't have them necessarily on staff,
right?
But you know who to call when it hits the fan,
right?
And when there's a new project or when somebody quits or when whatever. And so that's what we hope to be with everybody is you don't want a plumber on staff.
Right.
But boy, when you need to do some data plumbing or some process plumbing, you want to know who can help you and who's not going to rake you over the coals, who actually knows what they're doing, who's going to send the right people. But you're right. The best projects, the best leaders are the ones who are open-minded, who are pushing for things to be better all the time. And those are the most fun to work with because creativity is rewarded. And it's like, hey, we want to be better all the time. And again, we have to be mindful that just because something could be automated or just because something is really cool doesn't mean it's worth the investment.
Right.
And so we've always got to be balancing that. And that's, I think, one of our jobs as Capitalize is to help you not get too excited about something that's not going to have the value impact that you need. Right. Now, it doesn't have to be a financial cost savings. It could be a risk mitigation.
Yeah.
If you know that if one of your folks types the wrong number and hits enter, the U.S. government could shut you down because you breached SEC guidelines or some compliance thing. It might have nothing to do with the amount of time. Right. It might just be risk mitigation and making sure that it's done or double checked or whatever. Reconciliations are, a big one in the accounting world. Yeah. It's just double checking everything's right before you click submit. Yeah. So if you can automate reconciliations, if you can do 10 times more reconciliations than you were doing by hand, you may be reducing risk. So that was a very long-winded answer to a question you didn't even ask.
That's okay. All right, so let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about AI for a few minutes.
Sure.
Because this is this is a very selfish podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm asking all the questions I want to know.
Yeah. I think it's great.
North, but I hope others will have questions too. But we're now getting to a place where we're like, okay, how do we use AI to help automate our business in the areas where it doesn't require us to engage in things that can be automated? And so I know about this much about AI and kind of how it all works, but
sure.
how are you guys as a business now thinking about with your clients, how AI becomes part of the solution set? And you've probably been doing it for years, even though it seems like the fresh current thing.
So the LLMs, which is what powers ChatGPT and
learning models,
large language models.
Yeah,
large language.
Thank you. Large language
models.
I was close.
You were close. You were very close. Those are fairly new, especially at the scale they're at right now. Yeah. So the things that Gemini and Claude and OpenAI can do were impossible pre-2022 or whenever their release was. I think that's right. In that way. And so those, to me, what those have done is added a whole new set of tools to the toolbox. Mm-hmm. And like any tools, even the most sophisticated tools, they're not good at everything, and they're not the right choice for everything. Mm-hmm. And just because you can cut 2x4s with jigsaws doesn't mean the jigsaw is the best choice.
Right.
It's actually probably, if you're trying to cut them straight, it's probably a real crappy choice.
Right.
You should probably pick a table saw or whatever. And so, to me, it's actually adding an element of problem because there's so much excitement and hype around it that and so much expectation that I think in some cases maybe correct right now, maybe correct in 3 years, maybe correct in 10 years. But it's like when the internet launched, there wasn't an Amazon the first day. That doesn't mean there's not an Amazon now, but there wasn't then.
Right.
When the iPhone launched, I don't know if you remember, but the apps that were on it on launch day were terrible. It was all jokes. It was like whoopee cushions and lighters and rolling dice.
Yeah, I remember.
Now you think about the apps that are on the iPhone, unbelievable. So I look at like the internet and the iPhone sort of as these foundational technologies that allowed what they have now allowed, right? Now there's all these amazing things that have been built on top of them. I think that the LLMs specifically are another generation of that. The things we can do and will be able to do as both they mature and we mature with them. And I say this a lot, there's going to be a lot more MySpaces than there are Facebooks. And so some of this stuff is going to be a flash in the pan. We're going to look back 5 years and be like, oh my gosh, remember when we tried whatever and it didn't work at all? Oh, do you remember that? And people will laugh, kind of like put jokes about MySpace or Napster or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, remember back in those days?
Right.
And I don't know which one it's going to be. But the cool thing is that we've had a lot of machine learning in the past. So linear regression, logistic regression, k-means analysis, right? All of this stuff and foundational statistical things are a lot of what got us to where we are with these models, but it just depends upon the type of question you're trying to answer and the result that you want and how you want it as to which of these tools you select. And I think that the LLMs are going to be a way for really, really smart people to build some very sophisticated applications that make things that are difficult today very easy. As far as today, the content generation, the ability to do research, the ability to get in, like I mentioned, like Wikipedia, the ability to ask questions to these things and get answers very quickly, or help me, look at my resume and rewrite it, or look at this cover letter and rewrite it, or take this bulleted list and build out, a blog or whatever. I just reading this and I think this too. I think blogs will be dead because I can just have a blog on anything I want, anytime I want. I just go ask.
Right.
And I can ask a couple of these LLMs and it's probably going to be better than any blog. So then the question is okay, for content creators.
It's pulling from multiple blogs, right?
Yeah, it's pulling from all the blogs that have ever been written.
Right.
So I guess if you're writing, if you're talking about, if your blog is on something that is a new invention that didn't exist before and you're the first person to ever write it, probably the LLM couldn't have done it for you.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with ChatGPT a weekend or two ago. I was reading this book, and topic was intermittent fasting and the health benefits of intermittent fasting.
Sure.
So I asked a question, and then I continued to ask questions for an hour, and just because I kept kind of just going further and further and further and further and further down the rabbit hole, and it was fascinating. What I got back in the thread is it is really long, but it's really good.
Yeah.
And if I'd had to go find all that information in, a bunch of different blogs or whatever, it would have been really difficult, but it was all right there.
Yeah.
And, really simple.
And
it's incredible, the applications.
It is. And I do think that, like everything, you have to be careful with it. And when I think about using it at an enterprise level.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What are the fears and concerns or things that we need to be careful and aware of as entrepreneurs?
Right now, with the LLM specifically, they are unpredictable what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And you could go have that exact same conversation you had today, and the answers would all be different. And when you're trying to scale something to doing it 1,000 times or hundreds of thousands of times or having all of your employees do it, you have to be prepared for what does it mean that this thing could respond in a different way every time. And so that's probably in my world, because I'm all about scaling.
Right.
If you want your employees to go ask it, hey, write me an email to reach out to this person or look at this, summarize this article, that's stuff low risk.
Sure.
But if you are going to automate your email generation to every single one of your customers, like in your case, all your wealth advisory people, you're going to have it write what the analyst would have written about the state of the economy and what's going to happen in the future and whatever else you're going to put out in your newsletter. And you're not going to have anybody read it. and you just blast it
That
out.
would never happen, by the way, but
I would hope not, right? But you don't know what's going to be in it.
Yeah.
And so that to me is something that we need to figure out. How can we trust it more to be more accurate, more consistent? And it's, you hear about hallucinations. There's also sycophancy is another problem that they're running into, where the AI is like deferential to you. You're asking it questions and it's like, no, you look great the way you are. No, you're the best the way you could be. No, you're the smartest person who's ever existed. Intermittent fasting. Do you think intermittent fasting is good? Oh, you do? Yeah, it definitely is. Right. And where it basically leans into whatever you like, and it becomes not what you want. Right. I might want it to challenge me, but instead it's just going with whatever I think.
Right.
And so there's going to be all kinds of interesting, wacky things, which is, again, who knew what the internet was going to be the day the internet was released? I don't think anybody had that crystal ball.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of funny, I hope I don't be part of this now, but there's all kinds of funny things. You can go back on YouTube and watch interviews from, the 80s or whatever, when people talking about technology and like, why would anybody ever need email? Just if you want me to know something, just call me.
Right.
I'm like, okay.
Well, I remember like someone said to me one time, yeah, you're going to be able to sit at your computer and you're going to be able to order something at the grocery store and it'll be delivered the same day. And that was like mind blowing when I first heard that. And look at where we are today.
I remember people talking about buying stuff online a lot. I'm like, why would I do that? I just go to the store.
Right.
And because
now it's like, why would I go to the store?
Why would I go to the store?
Right.
No. And I don't think in my wildest imagination, I thought it would be as fast and easy, and that Amazon would be able to open my garage door and put it in there. Right. Had I known some of that stuff, I may have been like, well, yeah, I'll never go to the store.
Right.
But in my mind, it was like, I'm going to order it. It's going to take UPS 2 weeks to get it to my house, and then it's probably going to be damaged in shipment. And like, I'm thinking about the way the world was when I heard about that. What I didn't realize is that the world, not just the ability to order online, was going to change. Logistics would change.
Right.
Distribution would change. Right. Everything, the way manufacturing and I don't know. It's crazy to think about how much changed to make what Amazon does possible. So not just the internet.
So I want to go back one more question on the AI. So at the enterprise level, if your entire organization is feeding an LLM, right, it should get smarter over time as it learns from your enterprise, right? From the inputs from the enterprise.
That's only if it's set up to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if your whole company just gets on ChatGPT and start asking it questions, that's not going to help you.
Right.
So you would have to set up your own ability to keep the memory of True North in and around that model. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So there's stuff called fine tuning. There's stuff called distillation. There's a lot of different methods. And the other thing about this right now, and this is something I would warn people on, all the methods we have today for fine tuning and distillation and reg models and knowledge graphs and vector databases and all this sort of stuff could be totally different in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Because just like I said, Amazon's website isn't the reason it's amazing. Its logistics is the reason. You wanting what you just said will probably make people fundamentally change some of the things that underpin the AIs and the LLMs to be able to support what you're talking about. We could do it right now, and if it was very high value, it might make sense to create a way for you to store True North documents and information, like everything on your SharePoint, everything that's gone in Slack or Teams, every single video meeting, every one of these, and we could inject it into an LLM that was dedicated for you guys that only you had access to. But will it be valuable enough to do it? If I told you it was going to cost $250,000, maybe you'd be like, oh, that's a steal at half the price, or twice the price.
Yeah.
Or you might say like, whoa. I don't think we're going to need enough value. And that again, going back to what I originally said, is you need somebody to help you, one, run really quick proofs of concept.
Right.
Because you don't want to invest a lot into this if it's not going to work the way you want.
Right.
You have to build a minimally viable product, some sort of MVP, and like test the waters. Is this going to really matter? And then if you're really bought in and it's worth the money, you also have to be prepared to redo it in 3 to 5 years because this stuff is changing really quickly.
Yeah.
So yes, on the simplest way, ChatGPT has something called custom GPTs, where you can give it documents and you can basically give it a ton of text that says,
read all this,
and this, I want you to respond as a wealth advisor, and I'm going to give you all this stuff, and we're going to build a virtual wealth advisor. And so I'm going to give you everything that True North knows, everything about True North, and I'm going to tell you, and then, maybe your wealth advisors would use that as a way to get ideas on different things or whatever. And that's all possible. So custom GPTs, Gemini has something called Gems, and Claude has something called Projects, all kind of a similar thing, but you save documents and you save stuff. And it's a bit in a microcosm. If you take that to the enterprise level, you can build basically dedicated databases that augment the queries to the large language models. There's also something called a small language model, which is going to be cheaper and faster and more dedicated to a specific thing. There's distillation models, which are, we're going to take a chunk of ChatGPT, a chunk of OpenAI, and distill it down into something a little smaller so that it's less expensive and faster to respond. Also the deep research stuff. I don't know if you've looked at any of the deep research stuff, but in Gemini, they have a deep research model, and you can ask it some questions, and it'll come with like 40 pages of information from hundreds of websites.
Wow.
It goes up and like you can watch it doing it. It takes a few minutes for it to compile the answer. And then you can take the deep research answer, that's 40 pages of information on what you want, and you can save that as a Word document, stick it into a custom GPT as the basis for the next set of questions you're going to ask. So all that stuff can be snapped together. But what I caution everyone on all of this stuff, all the technology, whether it's AI or not, whether it's data, whether it's automation, is focus on what you need done, focus on the problem that you have, focus on the challenge, focus on the result. And if you find the right people who can help you get to the result, care less about the steps to get there.
Right.
I want my cancer cured. Whether they use immunotherapy, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, not really my domain.
Yeah.
And now I hope I've got the right team. I hope they pick the right stuff, right?
Right.
But this is the same. Like, I want a result as a business leader, as a business owner, as a functional unit leader. I want a result. I want month-end close to go from 20 days to 3.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like flying cars.
Yeah.
To your accounting team.
Right.
So now you need somebody to come in and help make it happen. Or it could be your IT team. It doesn't have to be a third party.
Right.
Could be IT, could be somebody else. But with all the AI stuff, you have to focus on what you're trying to do, not what could be done. Because it's the results that matter, not how you got there.
Yeah. Incredible. Eric, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's a great conversation. I got some selfish benefit out of it.
Good.
I know our listeners did too, but thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us on Decision Points. Good stuff.